Yo, what's good, everybody? This is Mr. Composition, MC that writes fiction, and we're back at it with another Hunters Guild Red Hood Chapter 9 review. And this chapter is called The Exam Begins. So, if you remember, Chapter 8 ended with Debonair doing like a galactic punch to a big ass squid, and her heat being like over 1500 Fahrenheit. It made no freaking sense. And so all 30 participants just seen her do that, and they're just all like, how in the world? What is about to go down? So, test format, we set up the first page. Now, what's interesting is this is the 42nd final debarkation exam. So they break down the rules and say that it's basically the general rules of cops and robbers. And once you're handcuffed, the rest of the party must move directly to jail. Participants who are not in jail when the time expires will be declared to have passed the debarkation exam. Now, a free robber can tag you free, so now the interesting thing is we start seeing more of the characters, and there were some characters that I said in the last chapter that are going to seem important because we actually get their names in this chapter. Now, what's interesting is Valu and a couple of the other participants stay like right there, and Valu's just all like, right now running is a bad idea, and he's just like, there's something contradictory about this test. Just running for 2 hours won't work, I don't think, anyways. And so, the twins and a couple of other people, they don't agree with them, but Red does notice like, why aren't they running? Now the thing is that it's such a crazy idea that they're just all like, if it works, it's possible we could all pass the test, which is huge. Like, what kind of idea could this be that everyone else is just all like, y'all are running, but we're gonna stay here, and somehow that's a good idea. So we have Valu, we have Bonkers, and we have Meros, and then that one lady that I said in the last chapter that had like the veil and everything like that, her name is Miguel Gajia. And she seems very spiritual because she's just all like, someone will surely come to rescue us. God will grace us with their divine protection. I know they will. Which is interesting because you always have to recognize when certain characters are religious or spiritual out of nowhere when other characters aren't. So that's going to be a big part of their character. So we're seeing in their plotting now, they do have a 5-minute head start. So Valu's going back and forth, breaking down and just seeing like, all right, this is what I'm thinking. And it's funny because Debonair's so, beside her massive, ridiculous strength and everything like that, she is actually very kind. And Red's just all like, you're spoiling them. Red's just all like, I'm bored, I'm just in here to do this, And so we look at Valu stating, reiterating, this just feels off to me from the start, And then he was saying that this is supposed to be a test for us to become hunters, but the requirement to pass is to not get caught. That's effectively saying that we're prey. That can't be right. There has to be something else to this exam, And then here we go. Debonair's just like, ready or not. And then you see Red stretching and everything. She's all like, yo, I'm about to mess y'all up. She's just all like, we'll massacre you all. No killing, because that's a part of the thing. They can't, be killed. So now we're introduced to another character and he does this attack called the Secret Elixir Lufang Huang. And he does this crazy scream. And what's interesting is as far as what he says that it is. And Debonair's just like a gust strong enough to stop me in my tracks. And you have to take into consideration, she did just karate punch a big ass squid. So he says that the fruit of the willow and 100 mystic herbs, mushrooms, and powders mixed for 1,000 days, steeped for 10,000, molded by secret art passed from here to here alone, thus created the mystical elixir Lu Fei. That's some super potent, powerful stuff. And it says, taste one and your tongue will flap like a flag. Swallow one and great galls of wind will roar from your throat. And then we find out this guy's name is Nulu Zhao. And then we get introduced to the other one, which I said was going to be a character that seemed important. And she does flying circus wire arts, which is really, really dope. And her name is Porcine the Juggler. And they're Debonair and Red are just like, oh, stop, because they have them tied down. Now, the point isn't, to fully stop them. They know that they're too strong for that, and there's a lot that's going on that sets up for distraction, and the thing is that Debonair and Red are just all like, all right, what's their whole thing, and so we see that this Valou reiterates and says the special rule they tacked on just for the test, and it says that I suspect it was added specifically to help us realize the contradiction. And a normal game of cops and robbers would never make for a proper test, so they deliberately added a vulnerability expecting us to find and exploit it. If they want us to exploit it, let's do some having formulated an effective plan to counter their response first. Now, remember, this was all in the little conversation they was had. Now, the big reveal is that they go after the cuffs, because that is the main thing. So as they were going around, they were counting how many cuffs. And so they were saying that those would let us go from prey to hunter, because that was the main thing, is they had to be able to use the cuffs in order to put them in jail. So they was just all like, okay, let's go ahead and go after the cuffs. And you see it ends with Debonair kind of having like this little smile, looking at them as they're doing this. And I think Valou goes after Red's cuffs, and then the chapter ends. Now, this is super, super dope. We get the introduction of a couple of more characters, and if y'all want to see a video basically breaking down the characters that we're introduced to so far and start breaking down like different things like that, because they've already introduced several moves, several characters, different things like that. The one thing that I'm thinking is that there's possibly someone that's undercover, honestly. I feel like if not, it would be very, very interesting. But the mayor and Cinderella, they're all looking, we see that several times, that they know exactly what's going on. But Cinderella and the Big Wolf do not know what the mayor's big plan is. And it seems like the mayor's doing something that is kind of aligned with what it is that they're doing, but also on something completely different, because he's been, basically training Valou without him realizing it. Like, that was some super G stuff. So I don't know what to think of the mayor yet. We'll see. But as we've seen in this chapter 9, Baloo is very intelligent. His intuition and just like his instinct when it comes to certain things is really dope. So we'll see how this plays out in chapter 10. Now, what do I think is gonna happen? I think that honestly, Red and Debonair probably know. So there's gonna be something else that like they partially understood what was going on, but they didn't quite understand it yet. But it's interesting because the pacing so far, so we're already on chapter 9. So I mean, realistically, the game could be over next chapter. I mean, that could be the thing. What I wanted to, honestly, they said that the test was like 2 hours, and we're talking about anime, or we're talking about manga time, so that could be like 20 chapters. So I hope that they do use this time to continue to introduce characters, continue to introduce, different moves and things like that. And I feel like the way that the author has set it up, I think that with how they end up figuring this out, it allows for this very specific characters to showcase their power. Like you have the one dude who has an ancient medicine that's able to stop Debonair in her tracks. You just seen what she did, and then you have as far as a wire that's able to tie both, Debonair and Red up like that, even though the whole point wasn't for a long time, but seeing what else the juggler can probably end up doing with that. Like, is it just as far as that wire? Can she send different elements through it, whether that be water, lightning, fire? That would be pretty dope. But yeah, anyways, what y'all think about this chapter? What are y'all thinking of the Hunters Guild Red Hood so far? Me, I'm liking it. I'm enjoying it a lot. I'm really liking how they're developing the story. So that's why I said the pacing, they went from like one chapter to the, beginning of them getting on the ship to like them now being at the end, so I don't know if they did that on purpose, so that way during this time they can be able to pull from any moment of those 3 months. Like they didn't have to show it right now, but the way that it can end up playing out to be able to extend it and be able to build it up is they can start pulling from any of those moments. So different interactions to where certain characters knowing each other or different things like that. So who knows? But like I said, I feel like there's someone that's undercover, honestly, and we'll see. We will see. But yeah, anyways, this is with Composition MC that writes fiction, and this is a Chapter 9 review of the Hunters Guild Red Hood. And I got my red shirt, and y'all see the background, added some of my paintings up. I didn't personally paint these. Shout out to Composure. Shout out to Robert Kramer. These are the people that did it. But what I did do is I did make my own manga called the Most Random Manga Ever. So make sure to check that out. It is the first cannabis themed manga comic book. So you can get physical, you can get digital. Dabtro.com. And make sure to check out my latest single, Invincible Summer.
Thoughts in the deep science, got the sun in my pocket, build your resilience. So when the next winter cycle comes, I prepare with no losses. The work of the soloists a boss.